We've had a big fight over this one. Who will we start out with when we're talking about who's the best fullback in the country right now? I'm sticking to my guns. Connor Prunty is the first lad we had to talk about. I know you want to go down other roads or whatever, but I think he's class. And it doesn't matter that he's only kind of newly on the scene. He'd probably be on the scene sooner if it wasn't for injuries. But even just what I saw of him in the league this year really shut down Patrick Horgan, which is no mean feat. The first day in the league, they conceded goals early, but this lad completely steadied his ship. He's fast, he's strong, he's absolutely everything you want in a fullback in the country, and I think he could be the best fullback going forward and take over from the likes of Dahi Burke, who's had that mantle for a couple of years.
I tell you what, Connor Prunty is. He's a modern fullback. He's big, as you said. He's strong, but he's mobile. There's lots of strength on his frame, but he's still able to move, and he's very, very quick. You have to be able to mix it. If you look at it, we were talking about cornerbacks. So if Cottle Barrett is cornerback, he has to be able to mark Patrick Horgan and these type of nifty players. But the full forward has to be able to mark a Colin Fennelly, who's going to be unbelievably physical. He could have to mark a Shane O'Donnell, who's unbelievably fast and mobile. He could have to mark a Patrick Horgan, who's unbelievably wristy and quick in his hurling, shall we say. So the fullback kind of needs to take in a bit of everything from nearly all the positions in defence. That's why the likes of Connor Prunty, that's why you're looking at him as one of the modern fullbacks. Liam Ryan is another one. Again, he's big, strong, physical. He has the ability to, that point he got in the All-Ireland semi-final last year against Tip, where he sold it up the length of the field, where, like, just say if you or me had done that like 5 years ago, we would have calved at the 65. The modern defender or the modern fullback is able to stay going, and he actually scored the point off his hurl. That's kind of what you're dealing with now. And then he has that raw kind of physicality that when he's marking a Colin Fennelly, that he'll get up in his face and they'll be wrestling and fighting and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what's needed in the modern fullback. You have to encompass a lot of different attributes to work there.
And Ronan Maher, of course, played against Wexford in that All-Ireland semi-final last year. Conor MacDonald got a couple of scores, of course, but Ronan Maher got two going the other way as well. He mightn't be full-back every day for Tipperary. You might see Barry Heffernan there some days. You might see, we saw Brendan Maher full-back in the Munster final last year when Tipperary were probably under pressure. They knew Aaron Gillan would be hard to keep it pucked into him. So Brendan Maher went back there full-back. So that's kind of a thing now. It's actually hard to name just a whole host of dedicated fullbacks. You've Dahi Burke, Liam Ryan, Connor Prunty, Owen O'Donnell with Dublin, Tommy Doyle with Westmeath, another really good player that probably goes under the radar because they're not at Liam McCarthy level at the moment. But then actually it was interesting, we were talking about Clare. Who is their fullback at the moment? It's actually, especially when their manager was a legendary fullback, it's kind of interesting that they had David McInerney, just kind of seemed like an obvious straight out of the packet fullback, and he's decided to put him in midfield and kind of ripped up the script to try and find one again. So there's no obvious answer there.
Yeah, it's funny because Brian Lohan would have obviously been over UL, and I remember watching a Fitzgibbon final, and I actually watched it. I was down at a semi-final as well, and McInerney was centre back, and I was just thinking, this lad has too much hurling to be full back for Clare. He just has too much hurling, can have too much of an influence on the game, and obviously I think Lohan probably saw that as well. And Lohan has him out around the middle of the field, and he's doing an absolute power hurling, but I think it's a good move to bring him out, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure about what they're replacing. So they don't have a natural number three. Conor Cleary, who would have played six a couple of years ago and was effective enough at six, has gone back three. They had Shane Golden there, who was very good throughout last year at midfield. They moved him in number three as well. Pat O'Connor has played there in recent years as well. He seems to be at six at the moment. So they're one of the few top counties that have a doubt about who's going to be playing fullback. And the fullback is the gatekeeper. He's minding the square. You need to know who the number three is, and there needs to be a rapport and a relationship built up with the goalie, because otherwise, just miscommunications and things happen, and a ball comes in maybe at the edge of the square, and the fullback isn't, like, maybe he's not used to playing that position, and there's a flick on it or something like that. So they're one of the few top counties going into 2020 or the championship, whenever it does start, that we probably have question marks over who's actually going to be playing there.
Yeah, it's kind of like goalkeepers. If you have a bad goalkeeper, it costs you goals. Bad full back line. And I especially mean generally the two guys who'll stay back closest to their own goal means goals. Bad players elsewhere, or kind of guys who I don't know have mistakes in them, that'll probably cost you points. So yeah, it's a big one.
It's unforgiven, isn't it? It really is. It's totally unforgiven. Like that's why I would always say probably 1 and 3 are the two most important positions on the field from that sense, because if there's any doubt or if you're not secure or there's a lack of confidence there, that's where you'll be found out. That's why I always say, like, all these boys up playing corner forward or whatever have it unbelievably handy. 20 balls can go in and they can miss 15 and they can get 5 and set up a goal, score a goal and get a point, and everyone thinks they're a hero. I could play cornerback or fullback and I could walk out with 18 balls out of 20 and I could make a mistake on the 19th and it could be a goal, and that's all anyone will remember.
Ashley's gone too slow. He's useless. You've never able to hurl, sure. And neither could anyone belonging to him. Galway this year, I mean, it was shaping up that Grode McInerney was playing in full back while Dahi Burke was away with Cara Finn. Will Grode McInerney stay there? I don't think he's in the same calibre of full back as Dahi Burke, because the speed of Dahi Burke. I mean, he can hang with you physically. He's got the speed. I think he can pretty much keep it into anybody there. Do you expect that Dahi Burke will play full back once more, or that, a bit like the way David McInerney was moved out the field with Clare so far in the league, that Shane O'Neill thinks, I need to get Dahi Burke in the game going the other way, and imagine him in the half back line, wherever it is, him bursting out with the ball, he can actually set up play.
I think he possibly would have thought that, but I think the way the year is going to work out, like, and if it is a knockout championship, I think any managers that have a doubt about anything, like Dahi Burke coming in, he would have been coming in April, or not in April, he would have been coming in March, April, playing games or whatever, and he would have got lots of experience. If he was playing anywhere bar 3, if he was playing midfield or wing back or something like that, he would have got a chance to play there and settle in. Whereas now, realistically, I don't know when things are going to pick up, but when they do pick up, there's not going to be that much contact time. So I'd imagine he'll go back to what he knows. Like, he knows what he will get out of Dahi Burke at number 3, and he knows what he'll get out of McInerney at 5 or 6 or 7. So I'd say he will go back to that. That's just my own personal opinion, because what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'm sure you've been in this position. I definitely have, and on teams where this has happened, where you put a lad in maybe midfield for a couple of challenge games and things are going grand and it's loose enough hurling, and he play midfield for a big championship game then, and it's just like a fish out of water. Not because he doesn't have the hurling in him, it's just because it's a new position and it takes time to bed in. There are very few lads that can just come in and be perfect in a new position. And like Dahi Burke will just say hasn't played wing back for Galway since 2015, would have never played midfield for Galway. So it is something, he can be the best hurler in Ireland, but a new position is still going to be a challenge for him. So I'd imagine Shane O'Neill will go back to what he knows whenever things pick up.
So I think that keeps Dahi Burke out front. Hugh Lawler played very well at times last year for Kilkenny, and it's not like he's a 20-year-old player. Like he was 23 then, he's obviously turning 24. So he could be a player for the next 5 or 6 years. I mean, maybe you need to get to that sort of age to fully physically fill out, so you can handle someone like a John Conlon or Seamus Callan, whoever it might be. Is there anyone else we're forgetting? Matthew Whelan is obviously an honourable mention here also. But
Mike Casey from Limerick could be another one too.
He's someone we should have named from the outset, being honest.
Yeah, the man marking job he did on O'Callaghan in the club final was unreal, in fairness, and he's been one of the few that's been able to tie him down, particularly in the drawn game. And again, he's one of those kind of he's kind of a modern fullback as well. He's not particularly big. He's wide, but he's not particularly big.
He was also very good against Johnny Glynn in the All Ireland in 2018, when everyone thought this is the way that Galway are going to play and who can actually stop Glynn in the air. He actually spoiled him brilliantly.
Yeah, and he has that bit of cuteness. He mightn't have the size, he mightn't be 6'2" or whatever, but he has that bit of cuteness in him as well. And it's for a relatively small man, is a real kind of bull of a man. He's unbelievably strong. The same as his brother Peter. I think Cork is an interesting one as well, because Owen Cadigan is probably Owen Cadigan was very good last year. He kept Galan very quiet down the Gaelic grounds when they beat Limerick. He's the other side of 30, so probably a couple of seasons left at inter-county, but has been a real good soldier for them there. He mans the square, but is also capable of coming out and playing the corner position as well. No more than Colin Spillane can play cornerback and come in on the edge of the square. But Cork are actually like blessed with riches, I'd say, back there now if they can keep them all fit. Because I thought Robert Downey was brilliant throughout the league. Any games he played, I watched him in Fitzgibbon a couple of times as well. Again, he's a huge man. He's about 6'5". He probably has a stone or two to put onto his frame, just generally just going to fill out. But he's very nimble, very good on his feet. Has, as is always said about fullback, has that bit of filth in him as well. Has that bit of dirt that you need. Like you do need that. At the end of the day, like positions change in that, but when a high ball comes into the edge of the square, you need to know that there's going to be an enforcer at number 3 that's going to either, hold off their man, catch the ball, or absolutely thunder through their man as well. So he's kind of that type of player as well. Like, I'd love to see how Dermot O'Sullivan would cope in the modern game. Obviously, everything was going in the edge of the square and it was barreling on top of lads and bursting out and everything. The game has probably changed a good bit since then, but that is still one of the core principles of a fullback. And I think Cork are going to be blessed with that over the coming years. Owen Cadigan will probably step out, and I think Robert Downey is probably the most natural successor at number 3 for him.
It's actually interesting that you mentioned The Rock, because watching the 2004 Watford-Cork Munster final on TV, I thought one of the biggest mistakes that Cork made when John Milan got sent off, Diarmuid The Rock O'Sullivan was the guy who was the spare man, and he actually spent, now obviously he'd be able to tell us accurately because you can only see so much on the camera, but he seemed to be almost standing behind the 2 cornerbacks, himself and Don Logue taking up more or less the same area. So it was actually 14, or the rest of the team was 13 on 13 the other side, at the far side of him. So he was not really getting in the game. He did one unbelievably long clearance, but other than that, it was basically 5 on 5 in that Waterford attack side of the field. So I think that basically, a bit like Wexford reacted wrongly to going a man up on Tipperary last year in the semi-final, Cork had the same problem. They had the spare man in the wrong place and they actually played into the opposition's hands. But just to mention Owen Cadigan there, 2009 he came in as full-back after The Rock retired, and I said to myself, oh no, Cork have found a full-back for the next 10 or 12 years. And then, obviously jumping over and back between the football, winning All-Ireland, I definitely think he would be like an iconic Cork name at this time if he wasn't flip-flopping between the 2 codes. And I think everyone has found out that that's a really tough thing to do. I still think he's really good. When he's been out in the half-back line, it probably hasn't worked quite as well. But I'd still have him as the number 1 full-back in Cork, and the guy you want closest to the square, man in that position, taking on your Aaron Gallans and Seamus Callanans if required. Now the next thing we have to come to is who you actually picking as your best full-back in the game at the moment.
For me, I think obviously he's four All-Stars in defence in recent years. I think he's brought a different type of solidity to Galway's defence. Like, one of the big things with Galway is you weren't sure who was going to be 3 and 6 with Galway, and that was one of the main reasons why they weren't winning Ireland. Daithí Burke went in there, just an absolute problem solver. He's been one of the few that's been able to keep a handle on Seamus Callan in absolutely electric form. And I think if you look back, the day Callan went to town on Pádraig Mannion, when Pádraig Mannion went full back, I think they realised thereafter that they had to solve the full back riddle, and he's been put in there. You could, like, if you were to look really closely, you could say he's been in a bit of trouble in a couple of games. But sometimes you're kind of grasping at straws as well. Or it might look like a lad could get at him or something like that. But invariably, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's the old style mixed with the new style. He's that raw aggression, that kind of. He's like a bull in their fullback, but he's also loves the physical contact. He's also brilliant under high ball, and is brilliant on the ball as well. Like, he rarely would give away the ball when he's in possession. I'd probably go with Daithí Burke. But geez, when you look through it, I think we're fairly spoiled for choice. I'd probably have Liam Ryan a close second.
I think Owen O'Donnell, when he's in top form, could also be mentioned as in. Right at the very, very top of this conversation. Yeah, Conor Prunty, as I said at the start of this, could take over. But I think we're agreed just about we're going to have to go with Daithí Burke. But as ever, people, let us know what you think. Just leave in a comment of who you think is the best fullback in the game.